saying 58,000 gallons in a month for a small church is just ridiculous.
It is without looking at their history. If you go back and look over the last 10 years' history, I mean, they just don't use that amount of water.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that in this particular case, while the board develops a policy, that we give Mr. Schiebel the authority to correct these 3 months with whatever the average is on those last 2 years.
I agree. And if we could at the same time, just ask, if they haven't already done, it'll be part of your motion, I'm sure, but ask that they replace
the meter, right?
Internal.
The flappers?
Oh, yeah, the flappers, whatever, to make sure that that is not the issue. It does happen. I mean, it's happened at my house, and I'm sure it's happened at each of our homes from time to time. And if you don't catch it, and if you only there twice a week, it goes for a much longer period of time than when you're there every day. So if we could ask them to replace the flappers, we will certainly make some adjustments here on this particular case. But I still want any abnormal cases like this to come to this board rather than giving an individual.
That's fine.
To say.
That's fine. But this is, I mean, you can see this is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
So,
I agree. I think
so we're going to, the motion is to readjust the three bills, the one for 21,000, 45,000, and 58,000, to the average usage that they've had for the last.
Those are gallons, right, not dollars.
Did I say dollars?
You didn't say.
Oh, okay.
I'm just making sure they're gallons, not dollars.
21,090 gallons, 45,470 gallons, 58,810 gallons. So those 3 months, my motion would be to readjust those 3 months to the average of their bills for the last 24 months.
Just have one clarification, sir. They do have a high bill that happened within that 24-month period. So if you go back, you're going to elevate that usage due to something that happened a year and a half ago.
Take out the high and the low.
Okay.
Our policy currently is we look at 3 months. If they had a leak that we could justify, we look at the last 3 normal months of usage and double the dollar amount, and that's what they would pay, no more than that. So we typically look at 3 months.
Yeah, see, this is outside the normal policy because now the board
Right,
has
if we
to
went
be
back
involved.
3 months beyond, 3 months prior of the normal usage and used that, I think we would be just in doing that.
Okay, you're saying December, November, and October.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Actually, I'll even go back further and say use 4 months because that's 750. 230, 150, 240, and then 750 is the 4th month going back.
4
So
months.
you can take those average. So that's the motion. Credit the 3 outrageous numbers and adjust those to the average of the past 4 months. Now, of course, you have to take off all the late charges.
That's correct.
Okay. That would be the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Underwood, and you heard the motion. Discussion on the motion. Mr. Black, how do you vote?
Aye.
Taylor?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye.
Seeley?
Aye.
Thomas?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well.
Thank you.
Proposed change order of Caroline Pines project.
I'll handle it. Start anyway. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, back in September, the board authorized staff to hire an additional full-time water operator position to help cover the additional workload caused by adding Caroline Pines to the county water system, in addition to operating and maintaining 3 new wells in Carmel Church, 2 new wells in Ladysmith, and green sand filters in both locations. In addition to keeping up with the increased workload, the position offered the opportunity to save money on installing the water meter appurtenances in Caroline Pines with in-house staff rather than relying on a contractor. An estimated $92,000 could be saved by installing the meters with county personnel. While adding the position to the budget would add to operating costs in the utilities fund on an ongoing basis, the thinking was that the savings would cover the estimated $44,700 in personnel costs for the position for at least 2 years, by which time another position would be needed anyway to keep up with the increased workload. position's not been filled to date, and in light of the challenges that we've talked about with balancing the FY13 budget, Mrs. Hatcher and I have revisited that issue, the idea of filling the position and adding the $44,700 to the utilities operating budget in FY13. Our goal is, as we said before, is to decrease expenditures as much as possible and not add new positions unless they produce revenue or are required by federal or state mandates or regulations. So while the position will initially save the county money, it will add an expense to the FY13 utilities operating budget and creating ongoing costs. So as an alternative, we can pay a contractor on a one-time basis from the funds borrowed for the project. Mr. Schiebel understandably disagrees with this approach and believes that the additional operator is badly needed to cover the additional workload. But the issue has been placed on the agenda tonight rather than part of the budget discussion because if we're going to use the existing contractor who's on site now, the window is running out because he'll be demobilizing the necessary crew and equipment soon, and if we're going to take advantage of the opportunity to use them, we need to go ahead and act on it soon. And if we do that, the board would need to approve a change order in the amount of $225,000.
Black?
No questions right now.
Taylor?
I don't have questions at this time.
Mr. Underwood?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Seeley?
I guess I have a question about the sand filters more than anything, Mr. Schiebel. We have 2 new sand filters in this mix in the chart that you gave us.
Yes, sir.
How many sand filters do we currently have?
2.
So we have 2 and we're going to add 2.
That's correct.
Do all the wells filter through those sand filters?
We'll have everything in the Carmel Church Ladysmith system on green sand filters, with the exception of the Petro well, which actually has a pretty good water quality. It's actually the well that's the farthest east in our system over there.
And testing-wise, you have to test individual wells?
That's correct. Every well, we'll have to visit every well every day, as well as every green sand filter. Test for the chlorine residual, test for potassium manganate, refill the chemicals as needed, pH, the water temperature, the ground temperature, and then record the elevation of the water level in the ground.
And how many people do you have qualified to do that now?
We have 2, including the supervisor, who is not really a field operator.
But
He has a license. He is a Class 3 water operator license.
so he can do it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, it seems like it's a pay me now or pay me later type of scenario. And Mr. Parton, you said there was a contractor on site now.
The contractor that we hired to do the water line extension, there was a clause in the contract that enables us to use him for the water meter appurtenances installation as well.
Just in case. And how long would it take to find a water operator?
We actually started the process.
Were we close, Mr. Schiebel, or did you have candidates?
Yes, sir. We've advertised and we've put together the matrix and actually had interviews lined up for last week, but due to the light of the budget, we put a hold on that until the board had a chance to make a decision on this.
Okay. And your opinion is we should have a water operator?
That's correct. You know, if you look at where we're at in the system, we're adding 5 new wells on top of our current wells. We're adding 2 new green sand filters that we're going to have to go to every day, 3 new wells in Caroline Pines that I'm going to have to operate, an additional 400 customers on top of my current 800 in the dilapidated system.
Okay. All right. And then the only thing is we save money by hiring somebody right away. The only thing is all accounting, and it makes the utility fund look worse because we're spending money out of the utility fund, and looks can be deceiving. Okay. All right, that was all I had. Thank you, sir.
Got it. I'm personally not concerned about the looks. I'm concerned about the fact that it just throws it further into a deficit, whereas the money has to come from somewhere. The looks part I can get over. You know, as somebody said, once you put lipstick on a pig, so I mean, it make it look better. So that's not an issue. It's just where it comes from is my issue. My concern is the fact that, gentlemen, once you've had an opportunity to look at the budget and to go through the budget, I think you're going to come to some same conclusions that I've come to. And the people that have been on this board for some time know that look at the budgets pretty carefully and closely. We're talking about hiring someone, and then in 3 months, you may have to talk about doing something entirely different that's going to impact that person plus other people. And so why go that route to begin with until at least we know where our budget is at? The $225,000, yes, I understand it's going to cost more for the meters, but that's going to come out of money that's already available to us, and we're having to pay. That's my thought. I wish we were in a position to say yes, go hire that person, but I don't believe we're in a position at this point to say to add anybody else, and I think the hiring freeze should apply to that position just as it has everybody else in the county. That's my thought.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, you can ask a question.
It's $90,000 difference in hiring somebody ourselves, which is less, versus the contractor. Can we hire one of the people that you were looking at as a contractor for 3-6 months? Or
I think really the issue that we're having is we've budgeted the money in debt service, and to come up with money out of the general fund of $44,000 really where the issue is. When we can hire someone to do that, I don't know if we could hire someone from the contractor to do that. The idea was to hire this position early before taking over Caroline Pines, was to save that money, knowing that we had to have an operator taking on Caroline Pines, new wells, and sand filters. Now we're just saying we're going to eliminate the position altogether. And this was a position that would generate $326,000 with water revenues and availability fees the first year, and that would continue through the first 5 years with the Caroline Pines system. But I understand the budget situation.
Let me ask the question, Mr. Shebel.
Yes, sir.
How does this position, in creating this position, create $326,000? By establishing this position. Now, I thought we were creating the $326,000 by hooking Caroline Pines up.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's not creating this position.
That's correct. Creating the
thank you.
position creates the
I
staff to be
understand.
able to operate the
But let's
system.
be clear, it is not creating this position that's going to generate $326,000.
No, it was
It's
connecting
hooking
Caroline
up.
Pines, right.
Okay.
And I just feel, you placed me in the position as interim director, that I would have to at least let you know, because I would not be doing my job if I did not tell you that I do not think that we can operate the system with current staff with the antiquated system that's there. And if I didn't at least tell you that, I thought I wouldn't be doing my
And the
job.
board appreciates your
Thank you.
candid response.
Thank
Thank you.
actually, I agree with Mr. Sheep.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with Mr. Shebel. I'm saying,
Well,
Yeah.
what's the
All right,
lowest,
is
the
there-
lowest cost? Is to hire somebody. That's the lowest. If we look at purely
where's
what
gonna come-
costs us the less, the lowest cost is to hire somebody.
yeah.
I'm
But
voting
you,
on low cost today.
come on back, come on to the, we can't hear you from over there, Ms. Hatcher.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Sorry.
I understand what you're saying, Ms.
Well, let
Hatcher.
it say it, you haven't yet said it
You
yet,
are
so-
talking about two different pots of money. We already have the money we borrowed for Caroline Pines, which was $3 million. The
Right.
225 comes out of that money.
Right.
The operator comes out of the operating money. In talking to our legal advisors when this first came up, if we used an operator to put in the meters, as long as that operator only did those meters, did nothing else, did not work on the system, anything else like that, we might be able to turn that in to get the reimbursement out of the bond to do it, but the likelihood is slim and none.
And
So it's still an operating from the very beginning.
But the reality is, I got to pay that bond money back, right? Plus interest.
You
I gotta
already have it.
But I can give it back and say, I didn't use it all. I'm
You
giving
cannot
this
give
money
it back until after the wastewater plant is completed.
Yeah, but, okay.
Which
We
one?
don't need to argue, because the reality is, I'm going to pay $44,700 for a person. Where that money comes from is another story. Whether it comes from money I already borrowed, or whether it comes from the general fund, because I got to make it up. The reality is, if I give that borrowed money back, I'm not paying interest on it. I might be able to save, if I looked at it and did all the math, it might be cheaper to not pay interest on a salary. The interest is 10 grand a year?
225,625 over that. Actually, I took it down because I took out the 80 we got to spend on some of the items that go in there, but it's about 10 grand, so you're only saving a quarter of the operating.
The reality is, I got to pay the borrowed money back. Whether it makes the utility fund, and that was my comment before of, it makes the utility fund look bad because it's $44,000 more in the hole, which, as Mr. Akers said, he can get over the look, because the reality is, without the utility fund, we'd all be paying 30 or 40 cents more in taxes. Everybody in the county. It doesn't just affect Carmel Church. It helps everybody. So I don't really have a problem with that. I'm giving back the money I borrowed that I didn't use. And I'm going to vote to buy this or to pay for this position because it's cheaper in the long run. Plus I get somebody that I can work through and do some other things. I don't have to worry about him picking up a wrench and saying, oh, no, we can't bill you now because you did something different. That's my opinion. I'm going to stick to my opinion, and I'm done talking.
Wait just a minute. The point is, too, is the fact that this position is an ongoing expense for you. Now, it's not a one-time expense. Now, if this board is going to vote at this point to say we're going to give back $300,000 or $400,000 or we're going to pay that back as soon as this project is over, then that shows that's a different story. But there's been very limited number of times that I've seen in the last 24 years that the board has given back money that it has borrowed. It happened several years ago, but up until that point, I've never seen us give back money that was borrowed. We'd always find another project, whereas the money would be used. I've heard tonight from people that said they had a concern about taking general revenue money and subsidizing the utility fund. So what we're doing now is adding further to that subsidy from the general fund to subsidize the utility fund by this position. I still believe this position needs to be frozen until at least after this fiscal year is over with, and we'd have another discussion after July 1, and we determine then what we're going to do. I don't know that, I think we should freeze it at this point. Because, yeah, $44,000. Does that include benefits and insurance and all of that? So what are we paying the position? What are we paying the position?
Probably 30.
I'm sorry?
30.
30,000. And then it's $10,000 per person as far as insurance?
You have to figure your benefits are anywhere from 37 to 44%, depending on what insurance plan they take.
But for somebody with a family, do we not consider about $10,000 per employee?
It's a little closer to $13,000.
Well, that's $43,000 right there, just in insurance. So how can it?
No. It's salary plus. He's saying salary plus benefits.
Salary was
44,000.
32,000. Benefits were 11,200.
But that's my point.
Safety equipment was 750, and annual training was 750, which gave you to 44,700.
What do we do as far as vacation, sick leave? We have
That's
pretty liberal-
included in the
That's in the
benefits.
We got $13,000 for the insurance.
44,000 is cheaper.
That's $43,000.
It is cheaper. Plus, we get somebody to help with the system. The contract is going to roll in, roll out. Right.
But there's no
We
sense
just-
in hashing it further. I mean,
we just
anybody else
need
have
to-
any comments at this point?
Mr. Chairman, we just need to make sure that we express to people the value of the utility system.
And we're going to talk about that. It's not 30 cents. It's 14 cents. But I understand the value. But the point is, when people look at that, they see you subsidizing the utility fund with the general fund.
And I need to tell them that I'm subsidizing their real estate tax rate
Oh, no question.
with the utility fund.
And we're going to talk
And
about that.
that's where we should be. We should stop saying we're losing money there. We get how much money? 40, 50 million dollars a year?
No.
20 or 30?
Well,
Yeah, okay,
now it's about
whatever.
a little over $5 million, because what we have here is $4.5 million
I was thinking Carmel Church.
for Lady Smith and Carmel Church, $4.5 million of revenue a year. Did not include McKesson, did not include some of the other business. So, we were talking about over $5 million a year that we get of revenue just because of water and sewer. That is correct. Water and
I'm
sewer.
not counting real estate tax.
Yeah,
I'm not
you-
counting the
yeah.
real estate tax I get on McKesson.
Yeah, you are.
Well, it's not in that one.
It's not there. No, not there.
Yeah, but it's going to be.
So,
Well, yeah, we understand.
uh,
All right, I'm going to make
any
a
other
motion.
discussion? Let's see if
Oh,
there's any more discussion over here. Any more comments over here?
I don't
Okay.
have any.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
make a motion
Yeah, sure.
that with respect to the proposed change order for Caroline Pines Water Project, that we accept the interim utilities director's recommendation and go with option one, which fills the water operator position and saves the county $90-some thousand.
Is there a second?
Oh, nobody wants to save money?
Sure, I'll second.
All right, motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Underwood. Is there discussion on the motion? All in, okay. Mr. Seeley, you getting ready to grab the mic?
Yeah, I'm in the same vein as you, Mr. Akers. I'm not sure that we can fund that position today. We've all had discussions about funding positions and what it's going to cost.
I can't believe you're going to vote to use borrowed money and pay interest on borrowed money, and then I'm going to have to next year hire that person?
I don't know that we have to.
I know you're not.
I don't know.
That's not what you're saying. You probably want somebody to explain something different. What is it? I'll explain it to you.
Mr. Seeley, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Seeley had the floor.
I know that's not
No,
what
no,
you're
no,
saying.
Mr. Seeley had the floor.
We have talked about this position, and that's why I was quizzing about the number of wells, the water samples, how many people we had to do it. Because I've heard all the employees say they would rather have kept the pay cut to keep everybody than to lose somebody and get their pay back. And I'm still in that vein, and I thought we were going to do. The other thing we haven't done is we still haven't made Caroline Pines a utility district. That is yet to be done. So, well, we've been talking about it for 6 months, I know. But, all this rolls into, I didn't realize we were this far along in Caroline Pines. When are they going to be finally hooked up?
Yeah. We've been working on one.
But shouldn't we have been setting meters before now?
Had to run the line first. Well,
Takes about 8 weeks during good weather to be able to put all the meter appenditures in place. So we were lining everything up, not to hire the position sooner than we needed to save money as much as we can, and then hire that position to get those meter appenditures put in the ground. And again, we were actually had interviews lined up for next week, and it got canceled due to the budget situation that we're in. So we were moving forward with moving the position and going to have them put in. Everything would be ready for us to take the system over in the May timeframe.
But I'm hearing Mrs. Hatcher say we can't use the borrowed money to pay this, so this has got to go right into general fund now,
That's correct. It's got to come out of general fund right now.
That's correct.
which is a whole different scenario.
That's correct.
I just don't see us. I understand your logic. I understand where you're going. Don't disagree with you. I just don't know that I want to add a position at this time either. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Other comments? You heard the motion? Mr. Taylor, you have?
Well, I don't know that I want to add a position at this time, but what concerns me is the alternative. The alternative to not doing that, I believe, would have far-reaching detrimental effects, because the work won't get done.
It will get done.
Well,
It will get done.
Yeah, but, I mean, it may get done, but number one, the money's already there to do it. I mean, it may be coming out of the general fund, but isn't it a part of the grant?
No,
Isn't it?
no, that's what we're trying to tell you, is the
Okay.
fact that it does not, it cannot be
Okay.
paid out of the borrowed money.
Okay,
It has to be paid, his position has to be paid out of the general fund. The contractor can be paid out of the borrowed money.
okay, that's what I mean, the contract. Okay, but again, if we do not do this, if we say at this point that we're not going to fund this position as he has asked, what effect does that have?
You borrow the money, you use the borrowed money, pay the borrowed money interest, and add it up. That's the problem. It's cheaper to hire the person.
You use the borrowed money one time.
Okay.
And you gotta pay it back one time with
If you put this
interest.
position on, it is an ongoing expense from here on. The borrowed money is $225,000 that will be used one time. That's it.
And next year, we're
my
gonna need a
concern
water
is-
operator anyhow.
My concern,
You're gonna need the operator anyhow.
well, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if we need an operator or not. It depends on,
But, Mr. Chairman, you have to agree that the expertise of Mr. Shebel, he's looking down the road in terms of, we have to give some credence to what he's saying, that we're going to need an operator for the system. So we're negating everything that he's saying if we say, well, we may not. I don't think we can say we may not.
I'm saying that I'm not willing to vote to put the utility fund further in the red when many of us on this, or some of us on this board have said, you know, you got to cut. How in the world are you going to cut if you keep adding to the cost? Now you've got to cut another $44,000 in order to keep a tax.
But we're going to
Keep a
spend
tax
more
rate
money,
reasonable.
Mr.
But
Chairman.
the secret is, I'm gonna have to pay that $200,000 back for the consultant plus interest.
I don't know that any discussion now is really changing anybody's mind. I think we've all decided as to have, absolutely.
Call for the question.
Yeah.
Call for the
Mr.
question.
Black, how do you vote?
On filling the water operator position?
Yes.
That's a nay.
You vote
Taylor?
nay?
Yes. Mr.
You
Taylor,
wanna
how do you
spend
vote?
borrowed money?
Mr. Thomas?
I'm
the vote
sorry.
Vote is in.
Can you throw me out now, please?
In a few minutes I will. Mr.
I
Taylor?
would really like that.
I vote aye.
Underwood?
Aye.
Mr. Seeley?
Nay.
Mr. Thomas?
Which aye? I vote aye.
And I vote nay. Motion's dead.
Motion's dead.
So,
Next item on the agenda
no, we
is-
still gotta make a motion to use the other thing. You gotta make a motion to do the other one.
Is that going to be tied?
Yep, because
Well,
I'm not
then-
voting for that one. We're
Then
not gonna
the
do
meters
it.
won't get in place.
Carolina Pines, too, we can do that, that's an option.
What?
We don't have to operate Carolina Pines.
The meter, if that's the way it's going to be, the meters, it's
Yeah.
a no-brainer. I mean,
How can you vote to spend borrowed money?
The thing of it
Where's
is,
Jeff Black and what have you done with him?
Okay.
we're
Is
creating.
there a motion to use the fund balance on this project in order to have the meters put in Caroline Pines? Is there a motion to do that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
This is $90,000
Is there a second?
here that you could give them.
Mr. Seeley?
If that's what
Mr.
you
Black?
want.
I didn't, what is the motion?
Motion, the second motion for the contractor.
Oh, second.
All right, you've heard the motion, discussion of the motion. Mr. Black, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood, how do you vote?
Nay.
Mr. Seeley?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
I vote nay.
And I vote aye.
I'm consistent all the time.
The motion carries on the floor to vote. It is a,
I can't believe y'all voted to spend borrowed money.
I can't,
I'm looking.
You did. You did.
It can't go back to the operating.
You go back, you find the money that's going to be needed to cut over the budget in order to balance the budget without tax increases.
No,
Then I'll come
no.
back and give you the
We're
$44,000.
being silly over this. You
No,
know it's
I'm
gonna
not
cost
being
more
silly.
than
I'm being
290 What's the rate on this?
Okay,
5%?
county administrator's report. Mr.
5%? It is 5%?
1.43.
You have any?
Oh,
Mr. Chairman, I really don't have anything
All right.
to add. You mentioned VACO Legislative Day. That was really the only thing I wanted to call your attention to.
Closing board comments, Mr. Black?
No, well, actually, Joey, I just want to say I do sympathize with you, and I understand it's the budget thing, and I would like to. Yeah. Okay. I do want to say that I think there's something. If we do get off the freeze, should be the first thing that we look at.
Mr. Taylor, comments?
Yes, I do. And, you know, my closing remarks have to do with some of the statements that were made in the public comment section. First of all, just for myself personally, I spent 33 years in the school system in Caroline County as a teacher and an administrator. My children went to the Caroline County school system, and I have a child there now. And I can tell you that I take very seriously the job of funding education in this county. If we would have listened to, or if an outsider listened to some of the comments that were made tonight, you would think that this board decided not to build the school or to refurbish the building, when actually that was not the case at all. We were presented with a budget that said there was a need for $9 million. And then a little bit later, we were asked for additional monies to the sum of $12.5 million. And the board looked at it, and we decided to give an additional $1.5 million over the $9 million that was asked. So we did what we could do. And a school is going to be refurbished. I have no doubt that that's not going to happen. We didn't give them the additional $300 or almost $300,000 that they asked for, but the school's going to be built. I've not seen an occasion where the school system has not had $300,000-$400,000 at the end of the budget cycle. With a $36 million budget, you can't tell me you can't find $282,000. You can, and they're going to. Finally, I don't believe there's ever been any mismanagement of funds from this board. That's against the law, and if it happened, I'm sure we wouldn't be sitting here. So again, it's a tough decision. We do the very best that we can, and quite frankly, I don't really have a problem with what's being said. I just like to let the citizens know that a lot of the accusations made tonight were definitely unfounded, definitely unfair, and definitely not the sentiments of these elected folks who are sitting here. We don't always agree, but we all want what's best for the students as well as the citizens of this county. That's all I have to say.
Dudwood, you have any closing comments?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. This was an election year, and I had an opportunity to go back and read some of the platforms that were put out by some of us sitting here on the board, and most of us regarding cutting the debt, reducing spending, la, 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 blah, blah, blah. Now, all of a sudden, give, give, give. Last year, we gave back the pay cuts. Last year, we gave bonuses to school employees. In addition, they were given pay raises. In addition to last year, they had $200,000 left over for paper that they bought last year that could have been used for schools and other things. I've listened to the rhetoric about long enough. I've asked constituents in my district. They say no new taxes, no tax increase. I've listened to 3 or 4, and quite frankly, if they don't like what we're doing, elections in 4 years, come up and have a seat. There's only so much money that's here, and that's the bottom line. My wife's a school teacher, and I listen to it, but I'm telling you, there's only so much money. We looked at the budget that was presented, $14 million, a $2.5 million increase in the school budget. Where's it going to come from? I am not going to ask any of the citizens for any tax increases. None. We're going to have to tighten up our belt. I believe, as Mr. Taylor said, on a $35 to $36 million budget, you should be able to find a couple $100,000 to help. We all should be trying to help. we all should make concessions. And we're going to ask every department to make concessions. No one is immune. And frankly, I'm just tired of hearing it. That's all I have to say, Mr. Chairman.
No, sir.
As a matter of fact, I do have one. It's has nothing related to what we did here tonight, although I have plenty of comments for those later. But I have a conflict for the March 13th board meeting that just popped up. And I was going to ask if the board would consider looking at an alternative date for the March meeting. And I guess we can do it now, or we could wait till the 14th, which is our next meeting. That would still give us enough time to advertise. But I actually have to be out of town on the 14th. The 14th. The 14th of March, which is our board meeting day. I'm sorry. 13th. 13th, I'm sorry. I was looking at February. I'm sorry. 13th of March is the day I have a problem with.
Okay, is it possible, are you out there whole week?
Yes.
You out there whole week?
And then I come back on the 20th. But we could do the 6th or the 20th.
We have 2 meetings. Could we do it on the 20th?
Oh, we have 2 meetings on the March.
Yeah, we have 2 meetings in March. One on the 20th and one on the 27th. We have the 4th, you know, is 27th. We could have it on the 3rd and the 27th. Or the 6th.
Not in March,
Not March.
not the 3rd. 3rd's on Saturday.
Not March 3rd, that's bad.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, yeah, but I'm saying March 6th. March
March 6th.
right,
March 6th or the 20th.
And the 27th, right.
Right.
Yeah, 20th, one of those, you know.
Well, we have a meeting scheduled for the 13th and the 27th.
That is correct.
So I'm asking if we could move the
Well,
13th
the
to
20th
the
is better
6th.
for me.
Yes, that's fine.
But
If we move the 13th to the 6th, then we'll be 6th and 27th, if that works.
Right.
And I'll
That'd
work
be fine
around
with
that. That works?
Work for everybody?
That works? Okay, thank you.
How about when we go into April?
well, that's all right. It's always going to be bad. I can be here. It's just hard to count.
Would it be possible, would the board agree to move the April 10th meeting to April the 3rd?
April,
10th to the 3rd?
okay.
It's basically giving us 2 weeks of, you know, between.
Oh, your own count, yeah.
That one, I don't keep that far. Okay, okay. All right, so we'll change the board meetings, we need to advertise that from the March, the first meeting in March from the 13th to the 6th, and the first meeting in, or the second, the first meeting in April from the 10th to the 3rd.
Thank you, and I will,
All right,
So the April meeting would be again?
Third.
Third.
April 3rd.
ah,
We're
Yeah,
going to go
you
into
don't have any
closed
closing
session
comments?
under,
you have any closing comments?
I'm sorry, I have no comments.
All right, I move that that the board convene in closed meeting pursuant to the personal exemption of section 22-3711A1 of the Code of Virginia to discuss candidates for the county administrator position. That's it.
Wait a minute.
And the acquisition of real estate exemption, section 22-3711A3, the code to discuss the acquisition of utility easement in Caroline Pines. Calvin. Second.
Oh, I'll second.
All right, motion made, Mr. Thomas, seconded by Mr. Taylor. You heard the motion. Go into closed meeting. Discussion of the motion. All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The motion's carried. The board is,
All right.
to go into closed.